Part 1. The Capture. The stars stretched into gleaming streaks as the diplomatic vessel Harmony dropped out of hyperspace. Maya Chen stood at the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling violet gas giant that dominated the view screen. Orbiting the massive planet was their destination. Felis Prime, homeworld of the Felisarians. Maya smoothed down her crisp Navy uniform, its gold piping glinting under the ship's lights. At first glance, she appeared to be nothing more than a petite, unassuming human woman. But appearances, as the Felisarians were about to learn, could be deceiving. Final approach, Ambassador, the pilot announced, his fingers dancing over the holographic controls. We should be docking at the orbital station in approximately 20 minutes. Maya nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Excellent. Let's hope our feline friends are in a welcoming mood today. The Felisarians were a proud, militaristic race. Evolved from apex predators, they resembled Earth's big cats, sleek, powerful, and dangerously beautiful. Their empire spanned dozens of star systems, and they viewed most other species as little more than prey or pests. Humans, with their soft skin and lack of natural weapons, were particularly low in their esteem, which was precisely why Maya had been chosen for this mission. On paper, she was the perfect diplomatic offering. Young, female, and seemingly harmless. The Felisarians would see her appointment as an insult, a sign of how little the humans valued these negotiations. It was a calculated risk, one that Maya was more than prepared to take. As the Harmony glided towards the looming space station, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Red warning lights bathed the bridge in an ominous glow. Multiple ships decloaking. The tactical officer shouted, "Felisarian warships, Ambassador, they're powering weapons." Maya's eyes narrowed. Evasive maneuvers. Get us out of here. But it was too late. A barrage of energy beams lanced out from the Felisarian vessels, slicing through the Harmony's shields like they were tissue paper. The diplomatic ship shuddered violently, throwing Maya to the deck. As she struggled to her feet, acrid smoke filled the air. Sparks rained down from damaged consoles, and the screech of tearing metal echoed through the hull. Through the view screen, Maya could see a massive Felisarian dreadnought looming ever closer, its gleaming black hull emblazoned with crimson markings. "They're launching boarding pods," the tactical officer cried out, his voice tinged with panic. Maya's mind raced. This was no mere border skirmish or show of force. The Felisarians had orchestrated an ambush, a blatant act of war against a diplomatic vessel. But why? What could they hope to gain? She had no time to ponder further as the first boarding pod slammed into the ship's hull. The sound of plasma cutters filled the air, followed by the ominous thud of armored feet. "All hands, prepare to repel boarders," Maya commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. She reached for the small pulse pistol at her hip, a symbolic weapon, more for show than practicality. Against Felisarian battle armor, it would be about as effective as throwing pebbles. The bridge doors exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Through the smoke strode a towering Felisarian warrior, his golden fur rippling over corded muscles. A blood-red cape flowed from his shoulders, and his amber eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. "I am Commander Ravik of the Imperial Felisarian Navy," he growled, his voice a deep rumble that Maya felt in her bones. "Your pathetic vessel is now under our control. Surrender, and you may yet live to serve the Empire." Maya stepped forward, her chin held high despite the fact that she barely reached the alien's chest. "I am Ambassador Maya Chen of Earth," she declared, her voice ringing clear and strong. "This is a diplomatic vessel on a peaceful mission. Your actions constitute an act of war against the United Earth Government and its allies. I demand you withdraw immediately." Ravik's whiskers twitched in what might have been amusement. With lightning speed, his massive paw shot out, effortlessly lifting Maya by the throat. She didn't struggle, didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing fear in her eyes. "You are in no position to make demands, little human," Ravik purred, bringing Maya's face close to his. His breath was hot against her skin, carrying the metallic scent of blood. "Your weakness disgusts me. To think your people would send such a frail creature as their representative. It is an insult we will not soon forget." Maya met his gaze unflinchingly. "Appearances," she managed to rasp out, "can be deceiving." With a contemptuous snarl, Ravik hurled her across the bridge. Maya twisted in midair, managing to roll as she hit the deck and absorbed some of the impact. She came up in a crouch, eyes darting around the room, assessing the situation. The bridge was lost. Felisarian troops had overwhelmed the small security detail, and the crew was being rounded up, forced to their knees with plasma rifles pressed against their heads. Maya's heart ached for them, but she knew she couldn't save them. Not yet. "Take them to the brig," Ravik commanded his troops. "But this one," he pointed a clawed finger at Maya, "bring her to my personal interrogation chamber. I want to know everything about the humans' defenses, their weaknesses, and I want to hear her beg for mercy before the end." As rough hands seized her arms, Maya allowed herself a small, secret smile. The Felisarians thought they had captured a weak, helpless human diplomat. They had no idea of the storm they had just unleashed upon themselves. For Maya Chen was far more than she appeared. Beneath her unassuming exterior lay years of intensive training, experimental bioenhancements, and a mind sharper than any Felisarian claw. She was humanity's secret weapon, a wolf in sheep's clothing sent into the lion's den. As she was marched off the bridge of her ruined ship, Maya began to plan. The Felisarians wanted to break her, to prove human weakness. Instead, they would learn a harsh lesson about underestimating their prey. The hunt was on, but the hunters were about to become the hunted. The arena. The cell was dark, cold, and utterly silent. Maya Chen sat cross-legged on the hard metal floor, her eyes closed, her breathing slow and measured. To an observer, she might have appeared defeated, broken by days of harsh interrogation. Nothing could be further from the truth. Maya's mind was racing, processing every detail she gleaned about the Felisarian dreadnought. The guard rotations, the ship's layout, the subtle hierarchies among the crew. All of it filed away, waiting to be used. The Felisarians had been thorough in their questioning, but they had revealed far more than they'd learned. The cell door hissed open, flooding the small space with harsh light. Maya didn't flinch, didn't even open her eyes. "On your feet, human," a gruff voice commanded. "The commander wants to see you." Slowly, deliberately, Maya stood. She kept her movements sluggish, her posture slumped, the very picture of a defeated prisoner. As the guards roughly seized her arms, she allowed herself a small hidden smile. It was time for the next phase of her plan. They marched her through winding corridors, past other holding cells filled with a menagerie of alien prisoners. Maya cataloged each species, noting potential allies and threats. Finally, they arrived at a massive set of doors emblazoned with the Felisarian imperial crest. Commander Ravik lounged on a throne-like chair, his amber eyes gleaming as Maya was brought before him. "Ah, our stubborn little diplomat," he purred. "Have you finally decided to cooperate?" Maya met his gaze steadily. "I've told you everything I know, Commander. I'm just a low-level bureaucrat. I don't have access to classified information." Ravik's tail lashed in irritation. "You lie poorly, human. No matter. If you won't provide us with entertainment through information, you'll do so in another way." He gestured to a large view screen dominating one wall of the chamber. The screen flickered to life, showing a massive arena filled with roaring Felisarians. In the center, two alien creatures fought desperately, their movements clumsy and panicked. "Behold, the pits of judgment," Ravik announced, his voice swelling with pride, "where the weak are culled and the strong prove their worth to the Empire. You, little human, will have the honor of participating." Maya allowed her eyes to widen in fear, her breath to quicken. "Please," she whispered, injecting a tremor into her voice. "I'm not a fighter. I'll die in there." Ravik's laugh was cruel and mocking. That, my dear, is precisely the point. Your death will serve as a message to your people, a demonstration of human frailty. He waved a paw dismissively. Take her to the preparation chambers. Let's see how long she lasts. As the guards dragged her away, Maya had to fight to keep the triumph from showing on her face. Everything was proceeding exactly as she'd hoped. The preparation chamber was a dingy, blood-stained room filled with an assortment of crude weapons. Maya's guards shoved her inside, tossing her a rusty sword that looked like it would shatter on impact. Choose your weapon, human, one of them sneered. Not that it'll make much difference. Maya hefted the sword, testing its balance. It was poorly made, meant more for show than actual combat. Perfect. This will do, she said meekly. The guards exchanged amused glances. Your funeral, the other one chuckled. As they led her towards the arena entrance, Maya began to loosen her muscles, her movements subtle enough to go unnoticed. She took deep, calming breaths, centering herself. Years of training crystallized into razor-sharp focus. The roar of the crowd hit her like a physical wall as she stepped into the arena. The vast space was ringed with tier upon tier of seats, filled with thousands of bloodthirsty felicarians. The sand beneath her feet was stained dark in places, testament to countless battles fought and lost. Across the arena, another door opened. Maya's opponent emerged, a hulking, insectoid creature with razor-sharp mandibles and armored exoskeleton. It clicked and hissed, clearly experienced in arena combat. High above, Commander Ravik's voice boomed out. Witness, loyal subjects of the Empire, the weakness of humanity. Watch as this pitiful specimen is torn apart for your amusement. The crowd's roar redoubled. The insectoid creature charged, mandibles spread wide. Maya stood her ground, sword held loosely at her side, the very picture of terrified paralysis. At the last possible second, she moved. Maya exploded into action, her body twisting in a move that was part dance, part deadly evasion. The creature's charge carried it past her, mandibles snapping on empty air. Before it could turn, Maya's sword flashed out, not at its armored body, but at the unprotected joint of its rear leg. The crude blade snapped, just as she'd anticipated. But not before it sliced through the creature's limb, sending it crashing to the ground in a spray of ichor. A shocked hush fell over the arena. Maya tossed aside the broken sword hilt and turned to face the stunned crowd. Gone was the meek diplomat. In her place stood a warrior, eyes blazing with controlled fury. Is this not what you came to see? She shouted, her voice carrying to every corner of the arena. You wanted human weakness. Let me show you human strength instead. The insectoid creature struggled to its feet, hissing in pain and rage. It lunged again, but Maya was already moving. She rolled under its strike, coming up inside its guard. Her hands found pressure points between its armored plates, squeezing with inhuman strength. The creature let out a high-pitched shriek and collapsed, twitching. Maya stood over her fallen opponent, chest heaving, eyes scanning the crowd. The felicarians were on their feet now, a mix of shock, outrage, and grudging admiration on their feline faces. In his viewing box, Commander Ravik leaned forward, whiskers twitching with interest. Impressive, he murmured. Most impressive. Perhaps we underestimated these humans after all. But Maya wasn't done. She pointed at Ravik, her voice ringing out clear and strong. You call this justice. You call this strength. True strength lies not in dominating the weak, but in protecting them. You think humans are soft, vulnerable. You're right. And that is our greatest power. She spread her arms wide, addressing the entire arena now. We know vulnerability, so we value compassion. We know weakness, so we understand the importance of unity. And when threatened, when pushed to our limits, we become something you can't begin to comprehend. The crowd muttered uneasily. This wasn't the spectacle they had expected. This human, this prey animal, was challenging everything they believed about strength and dominance. Ravik's eyes narrowed. Enough of this, he snarled. "Send in the next opponent. Let's see how long this human's luck holds out." As the arena doors opened once more, Maya settled into a fighting stance. A slow smile spread across her face. This was just the beginning. With each fight, she would demonstrate more of humanity's hidden strengths. And with each demonstration, she would plant seeds of doubt in the Felicarians' minds. The hunt was far from over. But now, at last, Maya Chen was no longer the prey. The escape. The crowd's roar had become a constant backdrop to Maya's existence. Day after day, she was thrust into the arena, facing increasingly dangerous opponents. And day after day, she emerged victorious, her legend growing with each improbable win. But Maya knew she was walking a razor's edge. Each fight pushed her enhanced body to its limits, and she couldn't keep up this pace forever. More importantly, every moment she spent in the arena was a moment she wasn't working towards her true goal: escape. As she was led back to her cell after her latest victory, Maya's sharp eyes caught a flicker of movement in the shadows. A pair of luminous eyes blinked at her, and a low voice whispered, "The Unbreakable One. We need to talk." Maya gave no sign that she'd heard, but her mind raced. It seemed her performances in the arena had caught more than just the Felicarians' attention. That night, as the lights in the prisoner block dimmed to simulate evening, Maya lay motionless on her bunk, every sense alert. A soft scratching came from the ventilation duct near the floor of her cell. Slowly, silently, she slid from her bunk and crouched near the duct. The grate slid aside, revealing a creature Maya recognized as Isilthi, a species known for their agility and technical skills. Its serpentine body coiled as it regarded Maya with multifaceted eyes. "I am Zix," it hissed softly. "We've been watching you, Unbreakable One. You've given us hope. Now, we offer you a chance at freedom." Maya's eyes narrowed. "I'm listening." Zix's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "The Felicarians grow overconfident. They believe their ship impregnable, their systems unbreakable. But we Sci-Fi are masters of technology. We've been working for months to compromise their security protocols. And you need my help to put your plan into action." Maya finished. Zix nodded. "You've captured the imagination of many here, prisoners and Felicarians alike. We believe you can rally the other captives, create a diversion big enough for us to execute our plan." Maya considered for a long moment. It was a risk, trusting these aliens she barely knew. But it was also the best chance she'd had since her capture. "All right," she said finally. "Tell me what you need me to do." Over the next few days, Maya began to subtly spread the word among the other prisoners. Hope, long dormant, began to flicker in eyes that had known only despair. The plan was daring, perhaps even foolhardy, but it was a chance, and for many, it would be their last. The day of reckoning came sooner than expected. Maya was in the middle of another arena battle, facing off against a hulking reptilian creature, when the lights suddenly flickered and died. In the momentary darkness, she heard Zix's voice echo through the arena's speaker system. "Now, Unbreakable One, rally them." Maya didn't hesitate. She vaulted over her stunned opponent and raced to the edge of the arena. "Prisoners of the Felicarian Empire," she shouted, her voice carrying over the confused murmurs of the crowd. "The time has come to break your chains. Who will stand with humanity against tyranny?" For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then, with a roar that shook the very foundations of the ship, the captive audience erupted. Aliens of all shapes and sizes began to overpower their guards, driven by the wild, desperate energy of those with nothing left to lose. Alarms blared as Maya led the charge out of the arena. The ship's corridors became a battleground, with escaped prisoners fighting tooth and claw against the Felicarian security forces. Maya was everywhere at once, her enhanced speed and strength allowing her to turn the tide of skirmish after skirmish. To the hangar bays, she shouted above the din. "Zix and the others will have shuttles waiting." As they fought their way through the ship, Maya caught glimpses of other acts of sabotage. Doors that should have sealed shut remained open, Weapon systems failed to activate, and in some sections, artificial gravity cut out entirely. The Sylphi had done their work well. They were nearing the main hangar when a familiar, earth-shaking roar cut through the chaos. Commander Ravik stood before them, his massive form blocking the way, a cruel-looking energy weapon clutched in his paws. "Enough," he bellowed. "I was a fool to find you amusing, human. I should have crushed you the moment you set foot on my ship." Maya stepped forward, placing herself between Ravik and the freed prisoners. "You're right, Commander. You should have. It's just one of many mistakes you've made." Ravik's eyes narrowed. "And what, pray tell, was my greatest mistake?" Maya's lips curved in a fierce smile, believing that because we humans lack claws and fangs, we are somehow lesser. "You saw our capacity for kindness as weakness. You never stopped to consider that the species that elevated compassion to a virtue might have very good reasons for doing so." Ravik snarled and leveled his weapon at Maya's chest. "Pretty words won't save you now, little human." "Perhaps not," Maya agreed, "but they've already served their purpose." Before Ravik could react, a blur of motion struck him from behind. One of the freed prisoners, a small, unassuming alien Maya had made a point of protecting in the arena, had taken advantage of the commander's fixation on Maya to flank him. The creature's spindly limbs were wrapped around Ravik's head, sharp claws digging into pressure points Maya had taught it. Ravik roared in pain and outrage, trying to dislodge his attacker. Maya didn't waste the opportunity. She surged forward, her fist connecting with the commander's solar plexus with all the strength her enhanced muscles could muster. Ravik's eyes bulged, the air driven from his lungs. As he doubled over, Maya brought her knee up into his jaw with a sickening crack. The mighty Felicarian commander crumpled to the deck, unconscious. Maya turned to the assembled prisoners, her eyes blazing with triumph. "Let that be a lesson to all who would underestimate humanity, or any species they deem lesser. Now, let's get off this ship." The hangar bay was chaos as prisoners piled into shuttles. Zix appeared at Maya's side, deftly working the controls of a sleek transport. "We've done it, Unbreakable One. We'll be broadcasting the shuttle launch codes to all ships. No one will be left behind." As their shuttle blasted out of the hangar, Maya watched through the viewscreen as dozens of other craft followed, streaking away from the massive Felicarian dreadnought. Behind them, the ship hung silently in space, its systems in disarray, its crew in chaos. Maya leaned back in her seat, allowing herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Phase 1 of her mission was complete. She had sown discord in the Felicarian ranks and freed hundreds of prisoners. But the real work was just beginning. As the shuttle carrying her and her newfound allies vanished into the depths of space, Maya's mind was already racing, planning her next move. The Felicarians had started this hunt, but humanity would finish it. And when the dust settled, the galaxy would never be the same. The revelation. The stolen Felicarian shuttle dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a shudder, its hull groaning from the strain of the prolonged escape. Maya Chen stood at the fore of the cramped bridge, her eyes fixed on the swirling, prismatic nebula that filled the viewscreen. The veiled expanse, Zix hissed from behind her, the Sylphi's multifaceted eyes reflecting the nebula's ethereal light. No Felicarian ship would dare follow us in there. The energy discharges would fry their sensors. Maya nodded, a grim smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Then it's the perfect place for us to regroup and plan our next move. As Zix guided their battered vessel into the nebula's concealing embrace, Maya's mind raced. The escape had been a victory, yes, but a small one in the grand scheme of things. She had freed hundreds of prisoners, but the Felicarian Empire still held countless more. And now, with their pride wounded, they would be out for blood, human blood. The shuttle's sensors pinged, indicating the presence of a small planetoid within the nebula. As they approached, Maya saw that its cratered surface was dotted with the telltale signs of an abandoned mining operation. "It's not much," Zix commented as they began their descent, "but it will serve as a temporary base. The old mine shafts should provide shelter and the remaining equipment might be salvageable. As the ragtag group of escaped prisoners disembarked, Maya was struck by the diversity before her. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and evolutionary backgrounds, united by their shared ordeal and newfound freedom. It was a microcosm of the galaxy itself, and a powerful reminder of why her mission was so crucial. Over the next few days, the former prisoners worked tirelessly to establish a functional base. Maya found herself naturally falling into a leadership role, her diplomatic training allowing her to mediate disputes and allocate tasks efficiently. But even as she helped build their temporary sanctuary, she knew they were living on borrowed time. It was on the 5th day that everything changed. Maya was deep in the mine, helping to repair an old atmospheric processor, when Zix came slithering up to her, agitation clear in every movement of its serpentine body. "Unbreakable one," the Sylphie hissed urgently. "You must come quickly. We've managed to access some of the encrypted data from the shuttle's computers. What we found, it changes everything." Intrigued and alarmed, Maya followed Zix to the makeshift command center they had established near the mine's entrance. There, projected on a salvaged holographic display, was a vast star map of Felicarian-controlled space. But it was the pulsing red icon at the map's center that drew Maya's attention. "What am I looking at, Zix?" she asked, her voice low and intense. The Sylphie's tongue flicked out nervously. "We believe it to be the location of a Felicarian superweapon, codenamed Predator's Claw. According to the fragmented data we've decrypted, it's capable of generating a localized artificial singularity." Maya's blood ran cold. "A black hole gun," she whispered. "With a weapon like that, they could hold entire star systems hostage. No wonder they've been growing bolder in their expansions." She turned to face the assembled aliens, her eyes blazing with determination. "This is bigger than any one of us, bigger than any single species. If the Felicarians are allowed to complete this weapon, it will upset the balance of power in the entire galaxy. We cannot let that happen." A murmur ran through the crowd. One of the aliens, a bulky, rock-like being, rumbled in a voice like grinding boulders. "But what can we do? We are but a handful of escaped prisoners, with one barely functional ship." Maya's lips curved in a fierce smile. "Alone, perhaps we would stand no chance. But united, we have something the Felicarians can never truly understand: diversity. Each of you brings unique skills, unique perspectives. Together, we are more than the sum of our parts." She began to pace, her voice rising with passion. "The Felicarians see the galaxy as a hunting ground, with themselves as the apex predators. But they've forgotten a crucial truth. In nature, it's not always the biggest or the strongest that survive. It's those who can adapt, those who can cooperate." Maya pointed to the star map, her finger resting on the pulsing icon of the superweapon. "This is our target. We're going to infiltrate the facility, sabotage the weapon, and broadcast its existence to every corner of the galaxy. We'll show the Felicarians, and anyone else who might follow in their footsteps, that the age of empire is over." The assembled aliens looked at each other, a mix of fear and hope in their eyes. Slowly, one by one, they began to nod. Zix slithered forward, its multifaceted eyes gleaming. "We are with you, unbreakable one. But how can we hope to penetrate the Felicarians' defenses?" Maya's grin widened. "By using their greatest strength against them, their pride. They see other species as inferior, as prey. So that's exactly what we'll give them." Over the next week, Maya worked tirelessly with her diverse team of allies. Each brought their own unique skills to the table. The Sylphie's technical expertise, the rock being's incredible strength, the stealth capabilities of a gaseous entity they had freed. Slowly but surely, a plan began to take shape. Using salvaged components and the ingenuity of a dozen different species, they modified their shuttle, disguising it as a badly damaged Felicarian patrol craft. Maya would pose as a captured human prisoner being transported for interrogation, while the others would hide in specially designed compartments throughout the ship. As they made their final preparations, Maya addressed the group one last time. "What we're about to do is incredibly dangerous. I won't lie to you. Some of us may not make it back. But know this, every one of you has already shown more courage, more nobility than the entire Felicarian Empire. Whatever happens, it has been my honor to fight alongside you." The aliens roared their approval, a cacophony of different voices united in a single purpose. As Maya strapped herself into the shuttle's prisoner restraints, she felt a fierce pride in her unlikely allies. This, she thought, was the true strength of humanity, not just in what they could do alone, but in how they could bring others together. The shuttle's engines roared to life, and they lifted off from the planetoid's cratered surface. As they entered the swirling mists of the nebula, Maya closed her eyes, centering herself for the challenge ahead. The Felicarians thought they had seen the best humanity had to offer. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The hunt was entering its final phase, and this time, humanity would emerge not just victorious, but as the harbinger of a new era of galactic cooperation. The Triumph. The disguised shuttle limped through space, its hull scared and sparking in a convincing display of battle damage. Inside, Maya Chen hung limply in her restraints, every muscle tense despite her outward appearance of defeat. Around her, hidden in ingeniously crafted compartments, her diverse team of allies waited in breathless silence. As they approached the massive space station that housed the Felicarian superweapon, a gruff voice crackled over the comm system. "Identify yourself, patrol ship." Zix, hidden in the cockpit, activated the voice modulator they had cobbled together. "Patrol ship Claw Striker requesting emergency docking. We've captured a high-value human prisoner, but sustained heavy damage in the process." There was a moment of tense silence before the voice responded. "Acknowledged, Claw Striker. Proceed to Docking Bay 3. As the shuttle was drawn into the cavernous docking bay, Maya allowed herself a small, grim smile. Phase 1 of their desperate plan had worked. Now came the truly dangerous part. The docking clamps engaged with a shudder, and Maya heard the heavy footsteps of approaching Felicarian guards. She took a deep breath, centering herself. Everything hinged on the next few moments. The shuttle's hatch hissed open, and 2 burly Felicarian warriors stormed in, energy weapons at the ready. Their eyes widened as they saw Maya, recognizing the infamous human who had caused them so much trouble. Well, one of them growled, his whiskers twitching in satisfaction. "The unbreakable one herself. Not so high and mighty now, are you?" Maya raised her head, meeting the Felicarian's gaze with defiance burning in her eyes. "Why don't you come a little closer and find out?" The guard snarled and stepped forward, raising his weapon. It was exactly what Maya had been waiting for. With a speed that belied her apparent weakness, she triggered the hidden release on her restraints and launched herself at the startled Felicarian. In the same instant, the shuttle erupted into chaos. Hidden compartments burst open as Maya's allies sprang into action. The gaseous entity engulfed one guard, while the rock-like being grappled with another. Zix's sinuous form darted between legs, its sharp claws slicing through weapon cables. Maya's enhanced strength and training allowed her to overpower her opponent quickly. As she stood over the unconscious Felicarian, she turned to her team. "Remember the plan. We have to move fast before they realize what's happening." The diverse group split up, each heading to their assigned tasks. Some made for the station's power core, others to the communication hub. Maya, accompanied by Zix and the rock being, set off towards the heart of the station, where the superweapon waited. Alarms began to blare as they raced through the corridors, evidence that their intrusion had been discovered. Maya's team fought their way through waves of Felicarian security, their unique abilities complementing each other perfectly. Where brute force was needed, the rock being smashed through opposition. When stealth was called for, Zix's agility and Maya's training allowed them to slip past unnoticed. Finally, they reached the central chamber. Through a massive viewport, Maya could see the half-constructed form of the Predator's claw, a weapon of terrifying destructive potential. Banks of computers lined the walls, controlling the delicate physics of artificial singularity generation. "Zix, get to work on those systems," Maya ordered. "See if you can sabotage the weapon and download proof of its existence. We'll hold off any guards." No sooner had the words left her mouth than the chamber's doors burst open. A squad of elite Felicarian warriors poured in, led by a familiar, towering figure. Commander Ravik's eyes blazed with fury as he spotted Maya. "You," he roared. "I should have killed you when I had the chance." Maya's lips curved in a cold smile. "You're right. That was your second mistake." She settled into a fighting stance, the rock being a solid presence at her side. "Your first was believing that cruelty and domination made you strong." Ravik charged forward, his massive form a blur of muscle and fury. But Maya was ready. She ducked under his wild swing, her own strikes precise and devastating. The rock being engaged the other guards, its stone-like hide shrugging off energy blasts. The battle was fierce, a whirlwind of flashing claws and expertly placed blows. Maya found herself driven back, forced to use every ounce of her enhanced abilities and hard-won training. But slowly, inexorably, she began to gain the upper hand. "Why?" Ravik panted, his attacks growing desperate. "Why do you resist? We are the apex predators of the galaxy. It is our right to rule." Maya's eyes flashed as she parried another blow. "Because there's more to strength than the ability to destroy. True power comes from creation, from cooperation. Humanity understood that long ago, and it's time the rest of the galaxy learned it too." With a final, decisive move, Maya swept Ravik's legs out from under him. The mighty Felicarian commander crashed to the ground, his breath leaving him in a whoosh. Before he could recover, Maya was on him, her knee pressed against his throat. "It's over, Commander," she said softly. "The age of empires, of species dominating species, it ends here." At that moment, Zix's voice rang out. "It's done. I've locked them out of the weapons systems and transmitted the evidence to every major world in the sector." Maya nodded in grim satisfaction. She turned back to Ravik, whose eyes now held a glimmer of fear. "Your superweapon is finished, Commander. And soon, the entire galaxy will know of your plans. How long do you think your empire will last when every other species unites against you?" As if in answer to her words, a new alarm began to sound. The station rocked as energy weapons impacted its shields. Through the viewport, Maya could see a motley fleet of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, vessels of a dozen different species, all responding to the call she and her team had sent out. "You see," Maya said, rising to her feet, "this is the power of unity, of diverse beings coming together for a common cause. This is the future, Ravik. Adapt to it, or be left behind." In the hours that followed, Maya and her team coordinated with the arriving fleet. The Felicarian staff on the station, realizing they were hopelessly outnumbered, surrendered with little further resistance. The superweapon was dismantled, its technology to be studied and repurposed for peaceful uses under the oversight of a newly formed interspecies council. As Maya stood on the bridge of an Earth diplomatic vessel that had arrived with the fleet, she looked out at the stars with a sense of profound satisfaction. The Felicarian threat had been neutralized, not through overwhelming force, but through cooperation and understanding. An alien diplomat, one of many who had come to witness this historic moment, approached her. "You have changed the course of galactic history, Ambassador Chen," it said, its tone filled with respect. "How does it feel?" Maya smiled, her gaze still fixed on the star-filled expanse before her. "It feels like a beginning," she said softly. "We've taken the first step towards a truly united galaxy. There will be challenges ahead, old prejudices to overcome, new threats to face. But together, I believe we're ready for whatever the universe has in store." As the Earth ship prepared to depart, carrying Maya and the seeds of a new galactic order, She thought back to that moment of her capture, so long ago. The Felicarians had sought to break her, to prove human weakness. Instead, they had unleashed humanity's greatest strength upon the stars. The hunt was over, and in its wake, a new era of cooperation and mutual understanding was dawning. Maya Chen, the unbreakable human, had not just survived. She had thrived, and in doing so, had changed the fate of countless worlds. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying her home to a hero's welcome, Maya allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. The galaxy would never be the same again. And that, she thought, was humanity's greatest triumph of all.